you will be getting a notification.
There we go. Beautiful. Hey, everybody. Welcome to UGASports Live podcast. My name is Roddy DeBolsey. I am joined by Dane Young, Jake Roos, and the Hall of Famer himself, Jim Donnan, and that pretty cool hoodie that we're all coveting before the show started. Trying to figure out how to steal it from Coach Donnan. He has to sleep sometime. Big shout out to all of our sponsors, Athens Ford, Your Pie, Academia Brewing Company, Aaron Overhead Doors, Masada Leather, and DR Construction Maintenance. Of course, we are not at Classic City Eats today because Classic City Eats is moving. They're heading out to Watkinsville. So in January at some point, we will start resuming our shows out there. So we look forward to that. In the meantime, be sure to hit up any of our other sponsors when you get a chance, and we'll mention them later on the show. Guys, big breaking news yesterday, and that Greg McGarity is stepping down. I specifically asked him today if the early retirement program that's been given out to, or that's been put out there for the university employees had anything to do with it. He said no, being that he was in academics, being in athletics, he did not get that. But a lot of us thought that he was going to retire in June, but with COVID coming along, he was talked into sticking around another 6 months. It was going to be a year. But come December 31st, Greg McGarity, who's been at the helm of Georgia Athletics for 10 years, is stepping down. And of course, the speculation is rampant as to who would replace him, and how much does Governor Kemp and Kirby Smart and the board of directors and the board of the big donors, how much do they have a say in all this? And Coach, you've seen the ins and outs of AD hires. I'm sure you've probably been approached a couple times to be one. Give me your thoughts on the Greg McGarity's tenure and where Georgia should go from here and what we should be looking for.
Well, anyway, you look at it, Greg has done a tremendous job in a lot of areas here, particularly hiring Kirby Smart. It took a lot of guts making that move. Whether anybody else would have done it, who knows? But it turned out to be golden move. School's still out on Crean, but we'll have to see about that. And then some of his other hires around the department, I don't know enough about the other sports, but certainly the track coach was a great hire too. So I think the big thing with Greg, though, is just love of the institution. Georgia guy that really poured his heart and soul into working with the university and with Dr. Moorhead. That was a good blend. And, I've been very high on Moorhead and what he's done for the university ever since he was on the faculty rep when I was here. So he really a very smart guy. And, as far as what will happen, there's always a lot of rumors and everything, but it'll all boil down to what Moorhead, he's the boss and he's the one that's going to make the move, and he should. I mean, he's the president of the university. He'll get some ideas about what other people want to talk to him about, but I'm certainly sure that he'll be in concert with Kirby too, because he's definitely the guy that drives the athletic department vehicle, and it's going to be important that he has somebody that he feels comfortable with, not just a yes man, but somebody that's going to continue to provide the resources that we need to have to just stay equal with everybody, not so much, catch up like we used to. We were trying to catch up there for a long time, but now with this new building opening up in the spring, we're going to have everything that we were, except the academic standards, which are just very difficult to deal with, but that's part of the deal too. But I'm just kind of rolling here, but I do feel like that this is going to be a significant situation here to get a good marriage between Kirby and whoever they bring in. And you just don't know how long Dr. Moorhead is going to stay here either. So hopefully forever, but it's always good to have the guy that hired you still be in charge. So we'll see how that all pans out. And there's going to be a lot of rumors, but certainly we got some in-house candidates and one was here that's at Virginia that, very in Carla, who's very competent and has been the Georgia way all our life. So it's going to be a lot of he's and haws and G's and jaws there, but I think it's just going to be down to what Moorhead feels comfortable with. And, he might feel like we need a major change in philosophy, but that would be going way against the brand that he's always done here. He's brought in some deans outside and things like that, but if it ain't broke, no reason to fix it. I mean, we got a lot of good things going, but this COVID situation, is going to make it even more aware of what you're going to have to do as far as change. I mean, how is it going to affect? We haven't dropped any sports. We haven't cut any salaries, but we had a great amount of money left in our overflow. But after this, what's going to happen, and whoever's going to take the realm is going to have to make those decisions. Going to be some tough decisions. Have to tell people that you've known all your life. If you're Josh Brooks or you're Carla Williams, hey, we might have to drop your sport, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, Dane, when I think about the Kirby having a say in this, you know, people are like, well, why would he have a say? This would effectively be his boss. You don't get to hire your boss. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not saying that Kirby gets the yes or no, but I mean, I'm sure they would take his thoughts into consideration. That's not just a Kirby thing. That you see that at a lot of places, you know. Is the new athletic director going to get along with the head coach or the head basketball coach, you know, be it a big basketball school or, you know, whatever. You got to be sure that the personalities mesh, because we've seen in the past a situation where the new athletic director comes in and they just don't like that particular coach. And it starts the entire athletic department on a bad footing, and it just gets seems to get worse from there. Or am I worried too much about that?
I mean, I kind of equate it a little bit to, like, you know, when LeBron James is your player, technically he has a general manager and technically he has a coach, but everyone kind of knows that LeBron James's opinion really matters wherever he is. That's the case with these SEC football coaches, and that's just not alone to Kirby. He's one of the most important decision makers in the state of Georgia, including the governor, including the president of the university. That's just what comes with that role and the amount of people that follow it. So no, I mean, I think you're kind of reading that correctly. I think we do need to give a shout out to Greg McGarity for this, though. If you think about, it was pretty public that he was planning on retiring, I think earlier in the year, and then COVID happened. If President Moorhead and his staff would have had to fill that position during all this, I'm telling you, it was in the spring. It was so many unknowns, and there still are, but that would be such a tough position to put him in. So credit to Greg McGarity for hanging out a little bit longer than probably his family wanted him to. That was just a difficult spot, and he saved Georgia in a lot of cases with that. The other thing that he did is, for years you heard Georgia's just sitting on all that money. There's all those millions of dollars in these reserves. Came in handy this year, didn't it?
Yeah, that's a great point, because, and I'll hit Jake up with this, and this was my issue with the previous administration. I would go to lunch with some very high-ranking members before Greg McGarity got here, and, you know, we'll talk to them, and they would beat their chest about how Georgia was, if not the number one most profitable school in the nation, it was like number 2 or number 3. And they would talk about how much money the university had made. And I'm like, you don't get to keep any of that. That's not yours. Congratulations on making the university a lot of money. Now, what are you going to do with it? You know? And Jake was around to cover recruiting under, Mark Richt, and has seen the changes that the change in philosophy that Georgia has had in those reserve funds. Now, granted, they keep the reserve funds, and I know a lot of people say, well, why are you asking us for donations when you have the money to go build this new indoor facility, or you have the money to expand the west end zone, or you need money for the baseball stadium? You know, you've got the money, just spend it. And they said, no, we're gonna raise money specifically for those things, but we're gonna keep this rainy day fund for stuff that's needed. But at the same time, Greg McGarity opened the checkbook. And when you had Kirby Smart come in, the open checkbook changed a lot when it came to recruiting, because Jake can remember when Georgia was using one plane to get around.
Sure.
And then Kirby Smart's got a helicopter zipping from field to field. And all of his assistant coaches are on planes going elsewhere all over the nation. And all of a sudden you see Dale McGee out in California. You see James Coley up in Michigan. Just every single place. They have not been told. I don't say they haven't been told no, but Jake, you documented the change in, I want to say, a little more open-handed fiscal philosophy with this crew in there. And I think Greg McGarity deserves some credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that really outside of Kirby Smart, one of the defining things that came out of this administration was go look at what the locker room used to look like. And now look, I mean, everybody that, the four of you or the three of you guys know what I'm talking about. I mean, there was a point legitimately, even in that first year of Smart, where the facilities at Sanford Stadium were worse than several high schools in the state of Georgia. I mean, it was really unimpressive. Now, it made for a homey, good time feel, and we were all scrapping together. But
old school, yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. But that was the only appeal it held. Go look at the changes that they've made in that regard. Like you said, go look at the changes that they've made in terms of spending the recruiting budget. I always thought too, once the idea began floating around about potentially paying players, that war chest again kind of comes back into consideration. That's a situation where a lot of programs, I think, will be scrambling to find money if that comes to fruition. How would we take care of those guys? Georgia, on the other hand, not really a huge concern for them as much. So overall, I think that there were probably some warranted criticisms along the way. I think that there always are in these positions, but that's what comes with making the big bucks and making the big buck hires. And as you were saying too, I think that the most important thing you could do is make sure that this is a guy who jives with Kirby Smart. I don't think that can be the end all be all, but that's your biggest revenue producer by some stretch of the imagination. I mean, they're floating a lot of programs based on what Kirby Smart does. And I think that it makes all the sense in the world to go get his input and figure out, from there, which direction they want to go. But I think that it's got to be a hugely attractive job for all the reasons we just listed. I mean, it's an incredibly successful program. They've got cash in the war chest. They've got a great supporter base. Overall, I think that Georgia will make a home run hire with this one.
And let me just point out a couple things here real quickly for our fans. In 1997, Kirby Smart was playing for me, and I told the team and everybody, we're going to get this locker room refurbished. We're going to do all this stuff here. We're going to get an indoor building. We were working all on that stuff. And unfortunately, we got it, but we got it when Kirby Smart was the coach. 20 years later, we had the money for the indoor building in 1999, but Dr. Adams didn't want to let go of it. He wanted to take some of it and use it for the botanical gardens, which I understand that, but they didn't raise the money. Coach Dooley and I raised it. So we weren't able to, and this is no harp on anything. It's just the idea that the philosophy was, hey, you're doing okay, but we don't need to do this now. And we didn't do it under Rick, and Rick wanted it too. But when Kirby came in here and told him what Alabama had, showed him the prospect and showed him the outlay of what you need to do, they understood it from administration on down. And of course, the McGill Society helped in an unbelievable way. Everybody jumped in because everybody wants to be what Alabama is. So, and they knew they had a guy here that knew how to do that. So I think just the fact they cooperated and made that happen. Now, I will say this about it being an attractive job. There's no question it's among the top 5 or 6 AD jobs in the country for a lot of reasons. But the one thing that's going to be a little bit on the side of negative for us is if I'm an AD at another place, I'm saying, hey, they got a couple good in-house candidates there. I don't want to take a chance on hurting my base here and going and interview for a job that I can't get because they're going to go with an insider. So you got to be careful there. I mean, that's why you got search firms and you got people like that. But all of a sudden, I know there's certain people that I've heard that they would like to talk to back when Greg was talking about retiring, a year or so ago. And those people definitely, they got to be careful about, chapping the butts of the people they work with too. So even though it's very attractive, I mean, you got to be very careful about, who you putting people's names out there and all that. These guys got agents too, but I can tell you it's going to be a back and forth type situation. It's going to be even more difficult with the COVID, but I want to add one other thing there that and then I'm going to stop talking about it because y'all got a lot of ideas. But, when Roddy was talking about Kirby, making it work, I can guarantee you this, that Dr. Moorhead is not going to put anybody in that situation that he doesn't feel like Kirby wants to ride out to the varsity and get a hot dog with.
Yeah.
He better put his stamp of approval on it, or it's not going to be very good, because you don't need oil and water between the athletic director and a top 10 football coach like Kirby is, top 5 in my estimation. But you just you gotta have not a yes man for an AD, because you got to tell them no. I know last fall, they're getting ready for, playing at the end of the year, and they needed to redo a grass field there at the other end of the field. And Greg McGarity said, look, we're getting ready to tear this field up. We're going to have all this stuff, and we just don't need this for a couple of weeks. And sure, he was right. I mean, Kirby understood that, but Kirby, if he just had a yes man in, we'd have spent $600,000 or $700,000 on some grass we'd use for 3 weeks. So it was a good mix there. They worked good together, and then having a guy like Mike Cavan in there, who's a good in-between guy, that knows all the alums and works. He's just been invaluable too, to work with McGarity and with Kirby through McGarity. I think it's been a good marriage.
I got to ask, Coach, I think the question on everybody's mind, are you prepared to accept the AD job if offered?
Oh yeah. I would be really good. I can see that happening right now. They get on me enough for just being on your show, but although
but if you were the boss, you could tell them to go pound sand. Look, I'm the boss. This is the show I'm going to do. Shut up.
I enjoyed the administrative part of being a coach. I used to tell our coaches, when you go on the road, you need to spend the money like it's your own. Hey, if you need to do something, use it. But I don't want any frivolous spending. I don't want anything. This is the University of Georgia's money, or it's Marshall's money. You got to, protect it. And I think that's important that coaches understand that. I've seen coaches before. I mean, just a couple of things. I know a coach in West Virginia that had a credit card for gasoline, and he would go out and take some extra cans of gas and take them home and pour it in a big tank behind his house to save for his wife's car. Now that is not good. And I also know a coach in North Carolina that used to put down that he was flying somewhere. He would fly somewhere, but he put down the mileage on his expense account that he drove. And finally got caught. But that's kind of BS right there.
I knew a coach at Ole Miss that was calling hookers when he was on the road.
Not only calling them, but sending them over to Grayson and Liverpool. You wonder why that guy went to Ole Miss? He was strong too.
See, now I'm going to have to audit everybody's expense report they turn into me. I think we need to double check some of the stuff that Jake Roos has turned in.
Yeah.
Coach, you make a good point about that being one of the top jobs in the nation, and it is. And I hadn't really thought about there'll be a lot of people who want their name associated with that coaching search, but at the same time, they're like, oh, well, are you looking to go? Then maybe you're not a Missouri guy, you're not a UCF guy, or you're not, dying. Why are you looking for another job? Are you not happy? Yeah, and it can kind of strain the relationship they have with them. But when you're talking about great places to work, I do want to mention one place that it's December. We finally made it to December 2020. We're the last home stretch of this horrible year. And maybe you're looking for a change. Maybe you want to do something different. You want a better place to work. Why not work for yourself? Reach out to the URPI franchising office, Drew Natalie French. This is one of the best franchises out there. 2019 Restaurant Business Future 50, the 2019 Entrepreneur Top Food Franchises, 2019 Forbes CEO, who's transforming customer experience award winners. If you go to the URPI franchising page, you will see all the awards they've won. There's just tons and tons of them because it's a fantastic franchise. It's growing by leaps and bounds. You can't get a better job opportunity than to open your own and work for yourself, and work with the support that the URPI franchise is going to give you. It's phenomenal. So they do great market studies. They find you a great place, do it in your hometown, or town you want to live in. It's founded in 2008. They've been around a long time. They know exactly what works and what doesn't. So it's not like you're taking a chance on this. I know a buddy of mine, Bob Rosado, great photographer, one of the best photographers I've ever known, has 2 different franchises. Won't be long. He'll probably open a 3rd. Guy's making more money than he ever did as a photographer. So point being, if you're looking for a great place to work, check out the URPI franchises. It's not quite being the UGA AD, but it probably has a lot less headaches, and you make a ton of money. So it's a good idea. Also, when you've hired people and you've had to deal with that kind of search, you're looking for someone to do work on your home. You're looking for someone who can take care of, who would do as good a job for your home as you would want for the new AD to do with the Georgia football. Reach out to our friends at Aaron Overhead Doors. They take fantastic care of your home. They take fantastic care of you. It's a customer service based mentality. It's not, oh, we do garage doors, customer service would be nice, we're going to pay it lip service. No, they come at this from a customer service standpoint, and they just happen to do garage doors, whether it be garage door repair, installation, repairing your opener, installing an opener. Sometimes you have a panel that needs to be replaced. They can replace just the panel. That's they can do that. Or say we want this garage door, it doesn't go high enough. I'm trying to bring in a boat or something. I need the door to go higher. They can do that. You got cables in the door that break. They can fix that sort of stuff. And again, all of their employees are true employees. They work there. That's their job, 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekend if you need them. But it's not, hey, when you need somebody to come out, let's call a contractor who yesterday was doing plumbing. Tomorrow we'll be doing irrigation. Thursday they'll be doing electrician work. Now these are full-time folks who work out at Aaron Overhead Doors. And again, that sort of customer service, that their approach to how they take care of you is exactly what Georgia fans are looking for in the next caretaker when it comes to athletic director at the University of Georgia. So I'm done with that segue, Jake. Let's hit up some of the questions. Oh wait, I don't want to get to questions yet, Jake. Coach, I couldn't join you for the watch along this past week, but I did listen to the entire thing, and I learned a lot about Georgia when they took on South Carolina. I know we kind of jumped on the athletic director thing because that's the breaking news, but kind of give us your recap of that South Carolina game.
Yeah, I just thought it was one of those kind of games that you need to have on your resume as a team. And from the standpoint, you're supposed to win the game. You're supposed to look like you're engaged, and you're playing on the road, and you're playing at night against an opponent that's not anywhere near what it was supposed to be with the opt-outs. But we just came out there with a 21-0 browbeating there in the first quarter. Lost a little bit of intensity, and I give Mike Bobo a little credit for some of the things he did to get them back in the game, but just really power-mongered them up front and showed the running game we're capable of against a defense that doesn't stun as much. And our passing game was, workmanlike. It was there. We missed a couple, but we also hit some really good ones, particularly the first one to McGarity. And I think the biggest thing for me was seeing some of those younger guys get out there. And I know Kirby kind of expounded on that in his press conference. These guys work hard, and they've been up on the high mountain, and then, come in with high expectations and don't get to play early. And we played so many close games, you just hadn't been able to put them in. But just to get those guys in there and see a guy like Channing Tindall play in his hometown, and make some plays like that, and see finally Broderick Jones, Arian Smith. The future's so bright here, knowing you got guys like that and Ringo, waiting in the wings to help us out, because we're going to have a deficit there at cornerback with these guys leaving. And you got to figure Stokes, Campbell, Daniel, those guys are going to be gone. And then we got LeCount out too. So I just think it's just going to be more of the same here the next 2 weeks. But the one thing that I would say that I didn't say very good, but I want to make everybody understand it. Morale is so big a deal on anything you do. If you feel good about what you're wearing, what you're eating, how you're traveling, all that stuff. But these bowl games are going to be tough now. I'm telling you now, these kids have been practicing 20 weeks now, played 8 games. And then they're going to have to go 2 or 3 more weeks to play one game, go drive over to someplace, if it's Atlanta, and spend the night and play another one. I think keeping the morale up and making it fun and doing everything is going to be huge. So hopefully get to play a lot of these younger guys where they can see that, and the older guys are just not getting beat up all the time in practicing games, and they can see the light at the end of the tunnel and finish out the year on a big note. But I remind you too that you mentioned, hey, Vanderbilt, you probably get more interest in G-Day. 2016, an embarrassing loss to Vanderbilt. Any way you look at it, I mean, one of the real blights on our program for Kirby, losing to those guys that year. I mean, we weren't that great, but Jim Chaney calls that jet sweep to McKinley with McKinley with on 4th and 2, and we just that's a terrible loss, but that can happen. You can lose to a team like that if you're not ready. And I just want to remind everybody, as bad as they are, they played the heck out of Texas A&M the first game. They're going to have a new coach who knows what this guy will do. Maybe that girl will come in and kick a 50-yard field goal. Who knows what she'll do? And I hope she can kick a few in warm-ups and make her feel good. Not any during the game, though. But so I'm happy about that win, though. I thought it was a very symbolic win about where we are as a program with the youth on our team, and we're getting better, and particularly at quarterback, we're playing very solid.
Yeah, Dane, if you go to the front page of UGASports.com right now, you will see the Film Don't Lie, the feature that Dane Young and Brent Rollins do for us. Last few games, they've split it up into offense and defense, trying to maximize our reach by not making it one giant column, but, two succinct pieces so that I can tweet them out and tease everybody with their new membership deal that we have. And just real quick, if you're not a member, we've had some people say they listened to the podcast and they heard about the deal and they went and signed up. So I'll hit it real fast. Right now, if you sign up for UGAsports.com, say you've never been a member, or you were a member in the past and you canceled and would like to come back. If you sign up for a year, you get 25% off your first year. So it makes it $75. So 25% off. Normally, that's enough to get a ton of people to sign up. But what we're doing right now is after you sign up, and a few days later, we will send you a gift code, a little coupon code for Nike.com. So you go to Nike.com, and that code is worth $75. So you spent $75 to get a membership. Then you get $75 worth of Nike gear. You go to Nike and type in Georgia, you'll see all the Georgia logo stuff. So it doesn't have to be Georgia. You can get shoes, you can get whatever you want, but they do have a ton of Nike Georgia specific gear. So they have a ton of NFL gear too. So maybe your favorite NFL team is also a reps Nike. So there's a ton of that stuff out there. But if you go and also you would get access to UGAsports.com, which would give you access to Film Don't Lie, the feature that Dane Young and Brent Rollins do. And Brent, you had the defense today. Dane, tell me what really kind of stood out to you guys the most when you were doing your Film Don't Lie.
Jalen Carter. This guy is a menace, man. I think for Georgia, a lot of the 2021 success begins in the foundations that are built this past game against South Carolina, these next couple of games. Because remember, these players have been with this program for a long time and a long year right now. So typically they're getting a little bit of a break right now or preparing for bowl season. A lot of guys are thinking about future. They're having to be engaged a little bit longer than normal in a year that's already so wonky. So you're finding your leaders for next season and beyond right now. Jalen Carter appears to be that, at least as a playmaker. Personality-wise, I guess we'll find out if he's going to be one of those team vocal leaders. But seeing that on the offensive and defensive lines, I think was critical for Georgia. When you think about, all right, who could be leaving? Malik Herring is a senior. Jordan Davis has, some pro chances ahead of him. Who on the offensive line goes? Because there's a lot of, it seems like that unit's just now meshing. But what if it loses 4 guys off the offensive line? And then has to replace those going into next season. I think there's a decent possibility of that happening. And if that's the case, you want to know who's going to be in there that is ready to play against Clemson to start the 2021 season. And so I think building these guys up now is critical.
Here's the deal. You made a good point. But are we going to play Clemson? Are we going to stay with this conference schedule? I mean, it's so many things up in the air. I would think, Schaefer and Cleveland leaving. I don't see anybody else leaving on the old line, but definitely the one thing we said that people that listen to our podcasts back when that guy committed, Jalen Carter, I say a lot of things that aren't very good, but I said, this guy is the real deal. I mean, and it didn't take a real rocket scientist to figure that out, but man, I'm telling you, he plays very aggressive and kind of a quiet kid, but he's unbelievably stoked. And we saw 44 Walker make a couple plays on the boundary too. Just tremendous athleticism. I think that's the thing that you want, those D linemen that can really take on a block, stuff the line of scrimmage, separate, and still chase the ball down from behind, rush the passer. I mean, he rushed the passer 88 the other night, like like it was a bounty on Luke Doty. I mean, he just came after him really hard.
Yeah, he's, I'll never forget. I've interviewed a lot of coaches. I've interviewed a lot of players. The only time I've ever had a coach come out and say, I had a college coach come in here and say that Jalen Carter's potentially a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. And that's the only time any coach has ever said anything like that to me about some players. You hear real deal, underrated, but for him to kind of come with that projection and to get that kind of coming out of high school, that's always stuck with me. And the kid, I think, has really started to deliver on some of that hype over the last couple games for sure.
I like that when you went in and you beat a South Carolina team, and a lot of people said, "Oh, it's revenge." I don't think revenge was on the mind of most fans. I think they wanted to see what was going on with the quarterback situation. And, there were a few people who said, well, once Georgia's not in it anymore, we don't even need to play the final 4 games, which I thought was maybe the stupidest take of 2020. To me, you needed that Mississippi State game. You needed South Carolina. You need Vanderbilt. You need Missouri. If anything, I think Dane sums it up. And you start off the season, if everything holds to form, with Clemson next year. You want to get as many reps for those other guys as you can. And I think that, Georgia was running it at will. But again, those are still reps that James Cook needs and Zamir White needs. But when you see a guy like Arian Smith get in for, was it 1 snap, and he takes off and it's a touchdown, hey, now you're not asking Arian Smith and JT Daniels to complete a route like that against Clemson. They've done it once before. That little bit of confidence. Broderick Jones gets in for his first snaps. He's been out there before. You see Clay Webb line up at fullback. That's a guy who, Clay could go into the military. I know that was one of his goals early on. And what if Clay decided, I'm going to go off and join the Marines? Well, no, maybe I'll stick around one more year because I'm actually out there playing. We know that they traveled. I think Devin Willock, Cedric Van Pran. Cedric Van Pran gets into the game. You see every time Coach Smart mentions Devin Willock, his face just lights up. He's very excited about this guy. So there's when will we get to see Justin Robinson? What about Darren Branch? Will Jalen Kimber get in this week? There's a lot of players out there. And again, remember, you don't even have to worry about the 4-game redshirt rule. This whole year doesn't count. So to me, I'm really hoping Georgia plays Vandy because there's a lot of guys. Yeah, it's not going to be a competitive game. They got blown out by Missouri, 41-0, fired the coach. They could come in and be very competitive. Sometimes you rally around a new coach. But to me, getting those new faces out there, getting them that game time, and then getting the upperclassmen, the guys who aren't fighting an Alabama, a Florida, Auburn, a ranked Tennessee team. They started off the season with the biggest games front loaded. Usually you kind of want to work your way into the season with some of these easier games, and you're getting them at the end. And it's not that they're wasted. They apply towards 2021. And I think if some of these guys have a really good game and have a really good, final couple games in a bowl game, they're going to be a lot more confident, maybe stick around too for 2021. So that's just my take on it. Coach, did anybody really stood out to you amongst those newcomers besides Carter?
I really didn't see enough of it. I didn't get to watch the tape after the game, but I think
you doing Thanksgiving. You enjoy your family.
But I like Smith just from his high school tape and just the explosiveness that he presents. Big play potential because you're going to get that out of your slot when you got guys like Burton and Pickens on the outside, and you got and. I just think right now we've seen a lot of things that Todd Monken wants to do starting to surface, and you can't get that going when you're fighting for your life for first downs. But now, we had a waste down there. We threw the ball to Burton on a wheel route on first down. It really ended up being the first time we punted, and he underthrew it a little bit. But And as I mentioned on the watch along show, there's some things that JT can learn. You never throw the ball over in the middle against a single high coverage on the goal line. I mean, he just stared that guy down, and I'm sure they ate him out about it. I mean, you just can't do that against a really good team. And he's really shown a lot to me at this point. Really, I'm better than I thought we'd see. But that right there is just complete. You can't have that. I mean, that's a high school, junior high read right there that you got to understand that you can't throw the ball over the middle, particularly on the goal line. And the reason I bring that out is because that's even better because it didn't hurt him. It didn't hurt our team, but it's a good coaching point. It's a level of comprehension that he'll remember by. And like we've been talking a lot here about philosophy and all, but I want to hear about recruiting here because I know my man Jake's been on fire here with a lot of things he's doing. And I want to ask you just for 2022 here from the old coach's perspective, you got 3 quarterbacks out there that I think everybody knows about, Gunnar Stockton and Sam Horn and the kid over at Grayson now. What do we think about that? And who's Georgia in on now that Stockton, is he going to go to South Carolina? What's the deal? Sam Horn, he hadn't had an offer. If we offered the kid from Grayson, he used to live in Carrollton, tell the old coach something, son.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting kind of feel out for how the 2022 quarterback situation plays out. In my opinion, there's really no doubt that Gunnar is the top guy. Everybody wants a piece of that guy. Georgia probably feels pretty good about their chances. We'll see what happens with the South Carolina hire. We've mentioned the possibility of if they kept Connor Shaw, how that might factor in. Obviously, there's some family ties there. This is a kid, though, that I expect to be really calculated, really thorough with his decisions. So I caution people to think that there's going to be any rush with Gunnar Stockton. It's just not going to happen. He's not like that. He doesn't want the attention. Part of the reason he committed when he did was to avoid the attention. So you mentioned 2 other guys, and I think that, Sam Horn to me is a guy who is very, very interesting in this 2022 class. Great size, out of Collins Hill High School, a guy who's attracted a lot of attention. Missouri really, really likes the kid. The Tennessee's kicked the tires on him. Georgia's kicking around. Todd Monken has been in touch. So I'm not writing that kid off. And I think that one of the compelling factors with him is that he's got one of the best teammates in the 2022 class as well, in Travis Hunter, who's an FSU commit. I think that could be a compelling sell for him. Travis, not so willing to kind of go out on a limb and say he's looking around or anything, but you got to think bringing in his quarterback would be a huge.
What does Travis play? Receiver?
He's a receiver and a defensive back. I think most teams think of him as a defensive back at the next level, but he's having a hell of a year receiving, and he and Sam Horn have a really, really strong connection.
The one thing, and I want you to talk about the kid from Grayson. The one thing that's really, much as I'm just glad that everybody's safe and we're doing it, but it just makes the old coach sick that I can't go over there to these camps and watch these guys and know. I would know right now, hey, I could tell you everything in the world about Gunnar Stockton, about this guy, because you watch the guy throw. I mean, you got to see a quarterback throw live. I don't care what he does on tape. I don't care what. You got to see and get a feel for his velocity, for his release, his footwork. I mean, I never evaluate a guy just on tape on quarterback. I got to see him. And that's the thing I think that's just hurting Monk and all these guys. They can't go out on Friday night, watch him play. They can't bring him into camp. April 15th is the first time they can even think about it. And even then, who knows? So, the evaluation process right now, we just got to rely on guys like Jake the Snake, man. Get him, boy.
I'll tell you, it is absolutely, and you said it, Coach. To me, there's never been a more important year, and there's never been probably a better indicator of how good of an evaluator of talent based on how this class pans out, because guys are having to take some kids pretty much sight unseen in a lot of cases, guys that they've never been in person with, guys that they have spent very limited time with, even talking to. So it's going to be a mess. I mean, you've started to see a little bit of the decommitment season starting to pick up a little bit. Tennessee, I know, lost a couple big guys yesterday. So it's not.
There's a guy right there that I can comment on. Lewis, I promise you, people saying, is Georgia's going to recruit him? Hell no, we're not going to recruit him. I watched this kid work out. I mean, he's a good-looking kid, but I watched him over here at camp, and I can see why we're not recruiting the guy. I mean, he's got talent and everything. Would you recruit him?
Terrence is a kid that's probably a tweener. He's I don't know that I'd be making
way to be diplomatic, Jay.
I'm the recruiting guy. I can't be out here talking shit.
I mean, that right there, I can say something about the guy definitively because I watched him. I stood right beside Dan Lanning and Schumann, watched him over here in camp, and he committed to Tennessee, and I said, God, I hope he plays for them. I mean, nothing against the kid. I mean, I'm sure he'll be a good player. I mean, we missed on that kid from Alabama this year, though. The one that's starting, that freshman.
Oh, yeah. Will Anderson. Yeah, for sure.
Should have taken that kid. God, I can't believe he's playing for him.
I agree.
And that kid that's tight end for Notre Dame, too. This chap's my butt, too.
Tommy Trimble.
But you can't worry about the ones you lost. Come on, be quiet, Coach.
We do have some questions I want to get to today. El Cid 15.
Before you forget it, though, tell us about the kid from Grayson, and then we'll go. Not Grayson, but the one that went to Pace Academy.
Oh, MJ Morris.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say the kid at Grayson.
My bad. The kid at Grayson's going to Florida, right?
Yeah, the kid at Pace, MJ Morris, definitely an interesting target as well. I think he really likes the Georgia program. He was at Carrollton, goes back to Pace Academy where he started his career. A lot of ties, obviously, to the Georgia program with Andrew Thomas, Jamari Sawyer, Trey Blunt. So he's really interested. Georgia was really hot on him kind of early on, and it felt like they've kind of backed up a little bit. But I definitely think that he's a guy that remains in play for 2022.
He got a lot going for him. He got a little herky-jerky motion. I got to see him when he was sophomore, and his results are good. He just doesn't. I mean, you'd have to work a little bit on his motion. I think you could help him on some technique, but boy, he's athletic and competitive. Watch him 7-on-7. I mean, he's definitely in the ball game of a guy you'd like to have as far as all the intangibles, I think.
Great player. Now, I will say, shout out to my alma mater, Fannin County High School, for taking down Pace Academy in the first round of the GH.
Oh, come on, man. You don't want to hear that.
Hey, listen, first win for the Rebels in the playoffs since 95, baby. So congratulations to them.
The powerhouse emerges. Yes. The giant killers.
No question.
Don't call it a comeback.
Hey, before you hit on those questions, I want to mention, tell some of our friends, when you get a chance, swing by 5 points now that we are into December and is absolutely the holiday time of year. Go down to 5 points, pop into Masada Leather. Okay. Irv's been down there since the 70s. He's a fixture in this town. Of course, they had the downtown location, but now go by 5 points in Athens between the Royal Peasant and Earth Fair. We've had some people doing this. Let them know that, hey, yeah, I heard about it on the UGASports Live podcast. And I know we always mention that they have belts and bags and stuff like that, but I was in there the other day. They had fantastic wallets. Every guy can use a wallet. They have a huge selection of those. They have jackets, leather jackets, tons of different jackets. They even have coin purses, so you want to get one for somebody that needs one of those. The shoulder bags and briefcases are on another level. You won't find that stuff at a Target or a Sam's or any place like that. Go get a fantastic shoulder bag, computer bag from our friends at Masada Leather. Tons of jewelry, it's like you can get somebody a leather belt, you can get somebody else a bag, you can get jewelry for somebody who needs that. Bracelets, vests, hats, holiday belts. They even have belts that have like holiday scenes cut into them, so you'd have that nice belt. It would be a tradition. You wear your holiday belt. Everyone's like, oh, it's obviously Christmas here because Dad's got on the holly belt. So, they even had socks. I don't know why they had socks, but they had socks. So, if you get a chance, swing by our friends at Masada Leather. We've had some folks come in from out of town to do that, and they understand that the custom quality work at Masada, you just can't get it.
Tell them you heard about it on your show here, Roddy.
Yeah, that's what I said. Let them know that you heard about it at UGAsports.com. We'd appreciate it, especially when you do that, when you go into academia. If you want to go watch the game this Saturday, swing by our friends at Academia Brewing Company. Let them know you heard about the brewing company on the podcast. Even if you didn't, even if you actually were in a grocery store and you found their beer and you tried it and you liked it and you heard about how they're one of the top restaurants in the country. I mean, in the state, probably in the country if I'm ranking them. And you're like, hey, they have chef-inspired dishes that are seasonal and they have great beer and they're winning all these awards. Let them know that you heard about them on the podcast. Don't tell them that you've heard of it anywhere else. Just let them know that, hey, yeah, that's thanks to them. If you call Aaron Overhead Doors and you talk to Ryan and say, yeah, we heard about you on the podcast. It helps us a lot. And we really appreciate these folks sponsoring our show. I mean, it means a lot to us. If you get a chance, go by Academia Brewing Company's Facebook page and sign up for their newsletter, because I do a terrible job as a spokesman for Academia Brewing Company because I can't keep up with all the different beers they put out. They're putting out new stuff. It seems like every day. Granted, it's usually every week, but there's always something new. They're always doing something. There's always either some charity event, some new beer, some new food item, something new on the menu, something new they're doing, some event they're having inside the restaurant. So I really can't keep up with it. I mean, it would literally be a 1-hour podcast about Academia Brewing Company if I tried to keep up with all the stuff they do. So sign up for their newsletter. They're not going to hit you up every day like some of these places do when you sign up for their newsletter. They're just going to hit you when they have new beers in stock, new sours, new IPAs, stuff like that. So sign up at Academia Brewing Company. The easiest way to find it is just to go to Facebook, because unless you're one of these newfangled kids out there like Dane who doesn't ever do Facebook, then the rest of us will be able to find you on Facebook. So,
man, I'm rapidly aging because I'm not doing the newer stuff like TikTok and all that.
See, now you're an old too. Got it.
Yeah.
Hey, Jake, hit us up with some of the questions, please.
All right, Coach, you were mentioning the throwing motion of MJ Morris, and I think that it's kind of an interesting tie-in here from El Cid 15 over on the dog vent. He says, Coach, what are your thoughts on JT Daniels' mechanics? He has a massive arm, clearly, but it looks like he has a tendency to throw deep balls a little bit short at times.
Those are going to happen sometime when you got a little bit of pressure vertically and you can't follow through with your body. Even though you got a good arm, if you just think about anybody that's involved in athletics, the hips generate the power. The hips generate the transition from the short 18-inch step. We call it the 18-inch separation step. That's where your hips generate the power, the follow through on a tennis ball or a golf swing, a baseball. Same thing with a football. You got to use your hips to help you. And a couple of times he just armed it and he came up a little short. But he does have a really good arm, got really good touch, good release, and a very good feel for throwing guys open, which is very hard to know how to, lead a guy and anticipate the route. Stetson Bennett's good about anticipating that. He has a tendency not to be as accurate as JT, but, for instance, against Auburn, he hit the one to Pickens there, just threw it early. But I think the main thing with JT is just a work in progress, getting his, being able to separate and get rid of the ball and not take the sacks that he's been. We've had several sacks here that a more athletic quarterback would have probably gotten out of, but his arm strength and his passing certainly make up for that if he'll just continue to move around in the pocket. And the one thing that's his best friend now, if we can get the running game to continue to develop, and I know we're playing against some teams that aren't as good as ones we played against in Florida and Alabama and such, but boy, that just helps that play action game and RPOs. And the one thing about an RPO, everybody, these announcers and all, hey, that was an RPO. I mean, come on, some of them are maybe, but some of them aren't. Just because the RPO, they've got a loaded box doesn't mean you can't still run the ball. I mean, you can still go in there against an inferior opponent and knock them off the ball and make a guy tackle, be your own blocker, BYOB. So sometimes you don't have to pull it and throw it. You can just hand it off. And I mentioned that on the watch along. 2nd, 6 on the 6. Let's run the rock. I don't care if they got Will Muschamp coming out of retirement there in South Carolina. Hey, run it in there. So I really think JT's couldn't ask for too much better outings than his first 2 games at this point.
I like this one from B Butcher 19. He actually sent us a couple good ones. I want to hit both of them. But this one we'll start with. He says, at this point in the year, and this one for everybody, who is an unsung hero of the Georgia team? Somebody who has contributed significantly without gaining much attention. It's an interesting question, I thought.
Go ahead, Dane. Let's give a 1 minute moratorium on everybody's answers, including me. We can get more questions. I just have a tendency to drift a little bit. 1 minute.
I think it's Malik Herring, the same guy that it was last year. He was Georgia's top-rated 2019 player according to PFF, and he showed up big against South Carolina in this previous game. So you look at bringing a freshman like Jalen Carter along on the defensive line. Jordan Davis has missed time. Trayvon Walker is pretty versatile, but right there the whole time, consistent Malik Herring, eating up space and making plays and making tackles. I think he's going to be a pro player at the next level, and he's been a hell of a Georgia Bulldog.
Roddy, who you got, man?
Give me Collier Perno, the nutritionist. Give me Brian Gantz, the
Ron Corson.
But again, this is unsung. Everyone's been talking about how well Ron Corson's run this thing. Give me Josh Lee, director of operations. Basically, the fact that Georgia has not had to cancel a game or postpone a game while other schools have had to. Now, games with Georgia, of course, the Missouri thing was postponed. But again, that's not on Georgia. And that's not to say that, something will happen this week or next week. But the fact that they've made it through 8-9 weeks of the season without major outbreaks, with a lot of players being healthy. Ron Corson gets a lot of the credit, as of the training staff. Well deserved. That training staff is one of the best in the nation. Again, another situation where very few expenses have been spared. They have a lot of rehabilitation services within the building. They're going to have more coming as they build the new building. But give me the folks behind the scenes that no one ever talks about, from the nutritionists to the operations folks to the folks who try to keep up that morale, as Coach mentioned at the very beginning of the show.
All right. I'm going to go with Trey Scott. I think that Trey Scott's done an exceptional job, especially considering the losses of Jordan Davis and Julian Rochester. PFF comes out today, the highest graded Power 5 defensive lines: Ohio State, Oklahoma, Pitt, Texas, and number 5, Georgia. And that's pretty impressive given that you lost 2 key pieces up front. So I think Trey Scott's done a hell of a job for himself. He's getting ready to send probably a couple draft picks in this year, kind of break that streak for Georgia. I think a lot of credit deserved to Trey Scott for this.
Hey, wait till he signs Mason Smith and everybody loses their mind.
Coach, who you got?
I hope we get him. I'm going to go with Chris Smith coming in there in the secondary and just being a solid performer when we needed somebody to take over for LeCount. I've seen the way this kid works in practice. He's a no-nonsense, very smart, it's where he's supposed to do, is a good tackler, and really gives you a lot of hope for next year, knowing you're going to have not only him, but Seen back. Seen made 12 tackles last week. We knew he was kind of heat-seeking missile, but Chris Smith. And then on offense, I got to give a lot of love to Ben Cleveland, just because, you could have senioritis and all of a sudden your team loses 2 games and you're not in the playoff hunt more than likely. But this kid gets player of the week for the SEC against as the offensive lineman, because he went out and did his work. And what he understood after, having that little backward move there when he was ineligible for the bowl game last year, he's really worked hard and has honed his craft, and he's going to have a good chance of getting drafted pretty high with his angular frame and his strength. I mean, they need guys in the NFL that can line up and knock those 2 techniques off the ball. I mean, he can do that. He got to continue to work on his footwork, but he's got to be one of the most improved players that I've seen from year 4 to year 5 than maybe I've ever seen at Georgia. Really just played unbelievable.
Yeah, making his 8th year his best for sure. B. Butcher, though, also with this one, I thought a good question, not including Cook and White, because I think that, everybody kind of interested in what they're going to do, their pro prospects, certainly. But he says, looking at running backs next year, all of them feel really promising. Who gets you most excited for their future? Kenny McIntosh, Kendall Milton, or Dejan Edwards?
Yeah, I think Milton, just because of his overwhelming size to go with his speed and quickness. We've seen flashes of what he can do. Hopefully he's not injury prone. I mean, he pulled a hamstring early, and we were worried about those soft tissue issues with everybody not practicing in the preliminary workouts. And then he gets the MCL, but he's definitely a difference maker back there. I mean, he's a Chubb type player that could be really huge for us. And as you mentioned, people say, well, why don't you come back, Cook? And why don't you come back, White? They just got to look at what Kirby will have them talk to the different GMs and all that and see what their chances are. But you got to look from a White's perspective. He's had 2 ACLs. I mean, why risk coming back and getting hurt? If he's going to get hurt, he ought to be in the NFL. I mean, trying it where he gets paid. The same thing with Cook. I mean, he's got a skill set that not many people have, the way he can catch the ball out of the backfield. If you just look at the Patriots, the way they throw the ball to White out of the backfield, that guy's been playing for 10 years up there. And this guy can do it just like his brother, but he can also be an every down back too. I can see him going, even with the body of work, doesn't see a whole lot. I can see him going, if he has a good combine, easily in the first 2 rounds.
Wow. Okay. Roddy, who gets you excited?
Give me Kenny Mack, just because to me, as Coach points out, Kendall Milton's very Chubb-esque. To me, Kenny Mack is very Sony Michel-esque. That kind of dual threats, line them up. You can run him on a jet, you can pitch it to him, you can throw it to him. The kid just cuts. He has ridiculous balance, breakaway speed. I've said from the beginning he might be the best back out there. Now, I'm not taking away anything from Kendall Milton. There's a reason he's a 5-star, and Kendall could be a superstar. He might be that next when you go down the list of great Georgia tailbacks, it may be Kendall Milton, but to this day, I'll still say that I think Kenny Mack may be the most productive when healthy of the 5 backs that Georgia has in that room right now.
He's going to be, I mean, and somebody wrote that, hey, he's got suspect speed. I mean, I don't know who wrote that, but
Are they drunk?
I mean, I don't know. Don't talk about drunk. They said that I was on the show one. But seriously,
you don't drink. I'm the one that gets drunk.
That guy's got good speed now. He's got really elite speed. And the thing that I was really impressed with 33 the other night, Edwards, and then Dane and I were talking about it after the show, is that little quickness that he has. A fast back, a scat back type guy sometimes doesn't have the quickness, the lateral quickness to go with his straight ahead speed. And he showed some really burst cuts that you just can't coach. That, to me, in a zone scheme, he will be perfect with what he can do, because he gets behind those big guys and they can't see him. He got the quick cut, and he's just really getting some good. The thing that helped him when Milton was hurt during the fall camp, he got all his reps. He learned the offense, and he's ready to go. And he's going to be a true, be a redshirt freshman next year. I mean, I guess that's how you count the guys. It's his second year, but all these guys will be in there eligibility wise. You got him for at least 3 years, and returning kicks, stuff like that. I mean, we're in good shape. Although we need Edwards, to come here badly. I mean, Dale's worked so hard on him, and Jim Harbaugh's been helping us out too, because they aren't winning. And well, if we could get Edwards to go with that other group of backs, I mean, say goodnight, Gracie.
I'll tell you this though: if JT Daniels pulls the ball from Kendall Milton and throws the pass from an RPO to Jermaine Burton, you might as well cue up California Love from Tupac on the speaker, because I mean half the offense at that point is going to be from the West Coast.
That's good.
And get the tight end coming in there too.
Bowers, Bowers out from Napa. I think that it's. I think that you touched on something there, Coach. And to me, it's. I mean, Dacian Edwards was panned a little bit with that take. I mean, people were thinking that was a suspect take on Georgia's part. I think that he's already, come in and made his presence felt. I think he's got a really bright future ahead of him. I love what he does out of the backfield. So
I give credit to Dale McGee there too, because the thing that you got to do as a coach is you got to have your first choice, and you got to have a backdoor situation. And, Bigsby was out there, Gibbs was out there, and it's hard to get those guys if you don't say, hey, this is your you're my first choice. But Edwards waited, and he wanted to come to Georgia. And who cares, when you get to come, as long as you come. And, he told him, look, we want you, and we'll tell you if we can't take you. And they waited, and they got him. And, boy, you just like that kind of dialogue that Dale creates with the coaches and the players around the country. he is very well thought of all around, and they know if he tells you something, that's what he's going to do, and you can't beat that.
I agree. All right. Coming up on the end of things here, let's talk.
Jake, before you get to the last question there, or anything I want to mention, Coach says, that's a good thing. I also want to mention that our friends at Athens Ford, it is Christmas time. They are doing a good thing. Every time you buy a vehicle out there, they are putting either a toy or a bicycle or a jacket into this big red Ford truck out there. And it's right next to the giant UGA themed Christmas tree. So it's a giant Christmas tree with all these Georgia Bulldogs ornaments on it. Is a UGA themed tree. But they have this big red truck, almost like a Santa sleigh. And every time you buy a vehicle out there, you're getting somebody in the local community. And shout out to Geno Atkins for doing this the other day. He sponsored a $5,000 shopping spree for a bunch of kids in the and at the Boys and Girls Club and the Clark County Schools to get I think each kid got like a $250 gift card for their Christmas. But again, that you expect that from Geno Atkins, and you expect this from Athens Ford. Athens Ford does this every year. They put out a ton of community service things that they do this time of year to kind of give back to the community because they love Athens. It's in their name, it's in their blood. They're from here. They support this community. They live here all the time. And I was thinking about, looking at all their fantastic 2020 deals, and I keep going back to what I got when I was out there. I got one of the Ford certified pre-owned vehicles. And I always kind of say, look, it's 100+ point inspection, but it's actually 172 different things that are inspected on these vehicles. And Athens Ford is the #1 Ford certified pre-owned dealer in the entire Peach State. There's a reason for that. Of course, everything you get out there is going to have that lifetime powertrain warranty on it for other new vehicles, and all their, of course, the Ford certified pre-owned will have that lifetime powertrain warranty. But even if you're not getting one of those and you get a pre-owned vehicle under 80,000 miles, non-European, you're going to get the lifetime powertrain warranty on it. And just go into their website, you're going to get a $250 off coupon. And of course, if you're a student, there's an additional discount. If you're active military, there's an additional discount. So tons of discounts for you that you could apply towards getting one of those Ford certified pre-owned vehicles with their 172 point inspection, where they check out the interior, the exterior, the underhood, the underbody, the diagnostic system. They do a road test. They check out the vehicle history, including all the scheduled maintenance. They'll kind of have all that stuff for you when you go out and look at their vehicles, and they have tons of those Ford certified pre-owned. So hit one of those. So shout out to them for their community service, and shout out to Geno Atkins for his community service. We appreciate that. Again, that's something Brian Gant did all the shopping for. So when I mentioned those unsung heroes, the unsung heroes are the Athens Ford, the folks that keep the community up and running.
All right. It's that time of the week. Mouth-watering players. Obviously, Vanderbilt coming in here banged up, lost the guys, down guys. Roddy, you've even mentioned the possibility that you're keeping your fingers crossed for this one to happen.
I've heard some bad juju on this one. I don't know that Vanderbilt's really excited about playing this game. They're football players, and they'll play where they can, but they've already had COVID issues go down, so they're already thin. They just fired their coach. I just can't see a lot of incentive for them to come to town. But I mean, if they're healthy, they will. It's just they've had a rough go of it the last few weeks. So if this game gets played, I'll be very thankful.
All right. Well, who's your mouth-watering player for this week then, Roddy? We'll start with you.
Well, because I ruined it, but I'd been on a streak there where I kept saying James Cook. The minute I stop, he takes off for 100 yards, and so I'm like, apparently I'm the jinx on that one. So, but I'm going to flip to defense. And I think that, when Coach was talking about Jalen Carter and Trayvon Walker and the stuff they were doing, I remember Trayvon Walker leaping a guy that was on the ground to run the running back or quarterback out at the boundary, like Coach mentioned. And I'm just thinking this might be the game where Trayvon Walker just absolutely blows up. So Trayvon Walker is my mouth-watering player of the game.
Dane, who you got, buddy?
There's money to be made for Tyson Campbell. He got his first pick of his Georgia career last week, and he's got more room on his highlight tape for these NFL teams. I think Tyson Campbell shows off more of that athleticism. I'm going to say he gets another interception.
I'm going to go with a guy who almost came through with a first in his career last week as well. For me, I think Daijun Edwards gets his first career touchdown. I think he's owed one after taking that knee at the goal line. It only seems right to give him an opportunity to.
Well, he had it before the penalty.
I agree.
Holding on Pickens, was that right?
Give him a chance to get his first career touchdown. I think Daijun, another good week for him. Probably Georgia doing whatever they want in the rushing game again. So no reason to go against that. Coach, I know you're over there researching the roster. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm just thinking a couple of ADs are trying to get me involved. I'm serious. I just got 2 texts here from guys. Hey, what's the deal there? And, I say, hey, the job's closed, man.
That's because you're taking it, right?
No, I'm going to go with Kyrus Jackson just because I'm going to predict he's going to return some kind of kick for a touchdown and catch a touchdown pass.
Oh,
Very
that's
nice.
specific. I love that.
I like it. All right.
We're going to have to go because Coach apparently has to answer. He has to hire Georgia's next athletic director.
I don't. There are a lot of people interested in this job. I can tell you that.
No, and Coach, folks that are watching the show, Coach will not tell you this, and he'll probably be mad at me for doing it. But the sheer number of people in the field, from former coaches to current coaches to NFL talent scouts to NFL GMs to NFL coaches to people in the admin that reach out to Coach Donnan for advice. It is
well, they know
I'm whirlwind to sit next to him on the watch along show, which you need to do this Saturday, and hear his phone go ping, 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 because everybody wants to talk to him.
Are you coming out of retirement this week?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, Mike Tyson's not fighting
exactly
on Saturday, so Roddy's available.
I can make it this time. I don't have a heavyweight fight to watch. So
yeah, I'll tell you what I'm going to do about this week. I'm just going to go incognito. Take me on out of here, man.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. But be sure to tune in Thursday at 1:00 for the Around the League with Dana and Brett and Coach Donnan. And then tune in this Saturday for the Watch Along Show on the same YouTube channel. We will have Coach calling plays like he does before the game, giving us great insight. Again, I learned more listening to Coach Donnan call these games than I have in 20-something years of watching Georgia football.
You know, I don't have anything good about the other team to say, but I did feel like that one line I said, what are they going to do about Mike Bobo firing?
That was good.
and Mike Bobo, for what he's had to deal with, I think Mike deserves a lot of credit for holding the morale of that team together. All those opt-outs, that's tough. But they lined up and played their hearts out. So, and I'm sure Vandy will do the same. But just fingers crossed that game is played this Saturday and we can do the watch along show. So everybody tune in this Thursday and again this Saturday. Be sure that you are subscribe to this YouTube channel. It means a lot to us and we look forward to talking to you. Everybody take care. We'll see you later in the week.